And when I sold the business and I started VPM, now if you think about it, I'm helping people literally change their lives in second and third world countries. I have over 1,000 people that are now working with US based businesses that make more money than they ever made, and they're pulling themselves out of poverty.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. Hey, I'm your host today, Brett Swartz. In every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires and billionaires. They share their principles, values, secrets, and wisdom, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach the next level of faith, success, and impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Texas. He has built a platform designed for property managers, by property managers, VPM solutions. And he's very passionate about solving the biggest challenge with most of the housing industry, which is property management, especially single family property management, but also multifamily. And he has years of experience in property management, and he knows the firsthand difficulties that come with running a successful business. And so in today's episode, we're talking about how to implement virtual assistants into your business. We'll have a little bit more focus on real estate in particular, but this will be for all business owners to think about. He's also a three-time Ironman finisher and so much more, host of the NARPM podcast. Please welcome to the show with me, Pete Neubig. Pete, how we doing?
Right. Thanks for having me, man. That was a great intro, man. I feel like I accomplished so much all of a sudden.
Exactly. We can just turn it off right here. But for our listeners who want to continue to listen, can you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, so I'll talk about my real estate journey. Started buying real estate in 2001. By 2008, I bought so much property that I liked buying it, but I didn't know how to manage it. So I created a management firm mainly just to manage the properties that I was going to buy. Ended up realizing that the third party that the management firm was actually making money and my houses weren't. So I kind of flipped it and I started third party managing. Ran that business for about 9 years, sold that business for a 7-figure exit. And then I started VPM Solutions in 2020 and we went live in 2021. I've been running VPM Solutions for about 3-4 years now.
Awesome. That's great. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time as well, I always like to go to the superpower question. So what would you say is your biggest superpower, biggest strength, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
So I have I don't know, man. It's like the weakest superpower ever. I'm a process guy. Like I can see things. So I wish it was sales. I wish my superpower was sales or even public speaking. It's not. But my unique ability is really seeing things and being able to create process flows and going really deep into a process, which becomes very handy because you get the juice from the squeeze when you really go deep into the process. So if you just kind of have a process, it's like, oh, here's these 5 steps. Well, I look at it and I go, well, there's really about 55 steps. And so it's difficult for people that do a project with me, but when it's all done, we don't have to go back. It's done and it's pretty successful because we go so deep.
Awesome. With that being said, let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is really how to implement virtual assistants into your business. So Pete, what is the number one secret to doing just that?
Yeah. So first thing, Brett, is you have to understand that we are now in a time where people work remotely. So I think the first thing you have to realize is yes, I have this mindset that I can use virtual team members. They don't have to be in the US. They can also be, outside the United States. So once you get that mindset, okay, anything that does not have to be, if you don't have to walk a property or be physically somewhere, you can have somebody be remote. So the first thing is just understanding that there is the ability to hire people remotely. The second thing is, okay, just like when you hiring a remote person is literally just like hiring somebody in the office, with the main difference is making sure they have the internet speed. That's really it. So if you think about it, let's just kind of go through it. Okay. The number one mistake people make is they just want to hire somebody, but they don't have a complete job description. They don't know what that person should do. They find out, oh my goodness, I can hire somebody for $4 an hour. Holy crap, I'm going to hire somebody. And then they hire them They don't really have any design of what they're supposed to do, no job description. So that person doesn't know what to do because you don't know what they're supposed to do. And then you get upset because they're not mind readers and they don't know actually what you really want them to do. And then you realize, okay, it's not working out. Or worse, they realize it's not working out. And so they leave. So that's really the first thing is like just because it's cheaper to hire somebody doesn't necessarily mean you should hire somebody. You have to still put some thought into it. And
Okay,
so,
pause there. Pause there. Let me check out so far. So, number one, have a mindset that we're in a remote work world, right? Which means remote is not just remote to your local market; it's worldwide. And number two, if they have good internet speed, coupled with you actually have preparation and thought out a job description is your first foundational step. Are we on the right track so far?
you got it so far.
Okay,
Yep.
now keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So inside that job description, not only do you have like the bullet points of what they're supposed to do, but also what are they going to be? What's the scorecard, right? What's the KPI? What's the key performance indicator, right? So if I hire somebody to do lease renewals, how do I know they do a good job? What's their key performance indicator? And for every job role in your organization, anything more than three KPIs is too many. It's one to three KPIs. In your department, it's kind of like 5 to 7, and the company it might be 3 to 7. But for a job role, it's 1 to 3 KPIs.
Okay, let's
So
break that down because I think that's where probably a lot of people get caught up on this, right? They want that super assistant that does all the things that they're doing, and they're like, "Well, I've got this, and that, and why can't they do this, and that?" So help us to break down when is it one, when is it three, right? And also maybe give us like an example of an executive assistant, for example, would that KPI be like, hey, they need to own your calendar and make sure that all things are set for this week and can confirm for the meetings. They need, it could be, would it be follow up? Like walk us through a little bit of the entrepreneur
yeah,
who's listening.
I'll
Yeah.
break it down on a property management level because
Yeah.
that's what I know really well, right? So if you're a property management owner, or let's say you're a real estate investor that manages their own properties, pretty much you're doing everything. Right? It's called portfolio-based property management, and you're the one who's listing the property, you're the one who's leasing the property, you're the one who's taking the maintenance calls, you're the one who's lease renewals, you're the one who's doing all of it. Okay. And what a lot of people do is they hire an assistant and then they basically vomit on them, say, hey, I want you to do all this stuff. And they don't train them, right? That's too much. And then I want everything to be important. If everything's important, nothing's important. As you grow, you can break this out. So for example, let's say I wanted a maintenance coordinator. Right. Well, I'm going to hire somebody and you're going to do all the maintenance. And the KPIs for that maintenance coordinator might be customer satisfaction score needs to be over X. Percentage of work orders that are completed by a specific day, like 7 days, needs to be Y. And those could be the two KPIs. And we know based on those two KPIs that that department is running appropriately. Now, if I'm smaller and I only have 50 work orders coming in a month, that person has the capacity to do another job. So maybe I have them do something that's similar in. I'm going to use disc profiling here. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I want to create another job that's very similar to the job they're doing as far as personality type. So, for example, if I know that this profile is X for maintenance coordinator and for leasing coordinator, it's kind of the same profile. I can give them that, and I give them one KPI for lease coordinator. What I've found is somebody can handle about 3 or 4 different processes in property management. If you're not in property management, you might be able to handle more. But what I find is if you try to give them all the processes, that's called a property manager, and you're going to need some serious training to get them up to speed on that. Everything can be trained within 2 weeks. Maintenance is a little bit longer. So based on that, so that's what I mean by so each person, if they have more than one hat, then they can only have one KPI per hat, so to speak. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. That's very helpful. Okay, great. So once you've you found the person, you have the right job description, you have a couple KPIs in place, not more than three. And if they're wearing multiple hats, just one KPI per hat. What's the next step to kind of getting the momentum going here?
Yeah, disc profile. So if I'm a big fan of disc, it's personality profiling. So there's a lot of different ones out there. I like disc. It's easy. It's cheap. It's almost free. And so I'll give you the best example is if somebody has a personality for a salesperson, that person typically doesn't have a personality for an account. There was a different kind of personality profiles, right? So in DISC, the sales guy is a high I, what we call in the DISC profile, and the accountant's a high C. And the I and the C are complete opposites. The I is outgoing, the C is introvert. The I is gregarious, tells all the stories. The C likes details. The I doesn't have any details. The I is people focused. The C is process focused. So there's a lot of differences there. So if you're not using personality profile in your hiring, whether they're US based or non-US based, you're missing out because most people, if they have a job, like I had a person, a lady, she wanted an accounting job and she was a high I, and I wouldn't hire her because I knew she was not detail oriented. She's like, I love accounting, but she was a teacher and hated her job. She would have done anything to get out of that. And she would have hated this job 6 months from now, and she would have done anything to get out of that job. I'm a big fan of personality profiling, and I use it as a big metric when we hire somebody.
Okay, great. So what about hiring your executive assistant, like the person who's handling your calendar or maybe even the follow-up calls, not necessarily sales, more just like, customer service follow-up calls, executive
Yep.
assistant, and or are you separating those two? Um, walk us through what that looks like if someone's like, look, I need that. And what does that look like?
Like I'm the worst, honestly. Disclaimer here: I'm the worst person to ask that question to because I still do not have an executive assistant. I am a control freak. I know this. People know this about me, so I still handle my calendar. So when I give people my email at the end of this show, Brett, they will email and it'll be me, not my assistant. With that being said, if you have an assistant, you need somebody who is going to be detailed, right? See in this profile, but somebody who can also make phone calls and somebody who can talk to people, and that's an S in the disc profile. So you need a CS or an SC in the disc profile. And I know I'm talking disc, and people are like, I don't even know what the hell that means. Um, and so we could break that down, but if you look it up, there's only four. There's D, I, S, and C. So it's pretty simple.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And then what about is there a salesperson versus like a follow-up person, right? So sometimes, and I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on this, right? The person who in guest property management, right? They're reaching out to the person to see if they're interested in renting the unit, and then they're booking the appointment. But the person they meet with is the person who's the sales, right? But the person who's doing all the follow up offline or online or on the phone versus the person in person. So any difference between those two people, or are they both just sales kind of personalities?
No, this is something that we've learned a while back, and it's something that I'm a big fan of. The salesperson is going to be that person that loves to do the appointment, and sell. Right? They're going to sell. What they're not good at is updating your CRM system. They're not good at follow up. They're not good at creating a PMA. They're not good at creating a CMA. They're not good at doing all that dirty work. In real estate, we have something called a transaction coordinator. The transaction coordinator handles all the dots the I's, cross the T's, and does all the paperwork, right? In property management and in regular business, what we created inside sales reps, is what we call them. And the inside sales rep is a C, it's the opposite of the I, but that person is the one who does all the follow-ups. That person is the one who sends all the stuff, adds all the stuff in the CRM, does all the CMA, does all the paperwork, and is basically the back office helper for the salesperson. My theory is if you're sales, you should only be doing sales. Like you should be on appointment after appointment after appointment and let the inside salesperson, do all that paperwork and legwork for you.
Okay, that's really great. So the inside sales coordinator is more like a transaction coordinator or a relationship management coordinator. Is what you would maybe say
Yep.
on that scenario. They're doing all the paperwork, all of the proposal, actually putting together all of the CRM database stuff, all of that. And the salesperson is just strictly, face to face. All their energy is towards with the person. Right? Is that a fair summary?
Correct. That, and if your calendar's not full, then they can make the outbound calls and they can do direct, they can do the cold calls. The inbound calls, they come into the inside salesperson because that person's available. They're in the office all day long. So they get the email or the phone call. They then, kind of do a review. And is that person an opportunity? Great. It goes on the salesperson's calendar. If it's not, then it's not really for us. They go into the drip campaign.
Okay, that's pretty simple. I liking this. And what in so the inbound person, a good KPI would be how many inbound calls did you take to book an appointment? I guess would be one, right?
Yep.
And then how many
Meetings set would be the
yeah.
KPI. Meetings
Okay.
set. Yep.
Meeting set, and would that be the only one for the inbound person or anything else?
That's the only one I care about, because if they're not doing
Yeah.
the paperwork in a timely fashion, then the salesperson is going to manage them and kind of say, hey, we need to get this quicker. And if they can't handle
Mhm.
that, we have to get rid of them. But I don't think you need a KPI on that. Hard to KPI that.
Got it.
With a KPI, the KPI has to be something you can measure.
Right.
Right. So like I would love to KPI, like, okay, how long does it take you to, get a PMA out? Well, it's hard to measure, right? Now it can be done, but is it easily done? With the meeting scheduled, I know all the stuff that comes inbound to my CRM, and I know how many meetings they scheduled. I take those two numbers and I divide them, and I have a percentage, and that percentage should be over X percent. That's the KPI.
Okay, got it. All right, get in here. How about the inbound person? Is that person going to be a different C, or is that a C? Inside
I think
sales rep?
I think it's the same person. The
Yeah.
inbound is a C, just like it's the same person as the sales assistant. The
Mhm.
salesperson is completely different. They're a high
Right.
I, and they're the ones that make the outbound calls, and they're the ones that are doing the pitch, because those
Hmm.
guys can do the pitch every time, hour after hour, and and they can do it with the same gleam in their eye,
Hmm.
the same excitement. I do a pitch. By the second pitch, you get my bad pitch, and by the third pitch, I'm like, here, it's a good deal. Just sign the paper. Right? Like I'm not the sales guy, right? But my
Yeah.
partner, who was the sales guy, he would tell you the same story over and over and over, 4, 5, 6 pitches a day. Didn't matter to him. He loved it.
Okay, so this is a question for people because because I know I need all these things, right? Now the question becomes, when do you hire them all at once, one at a time? What if I don't have as many leads? Like walk
Yep.
through that kind of that world here of like, how do you really build this out until everyone has something to do, right? Because they might be a little bit slow in between those times.
Look, I'm going through this right now, Brett. We're a startup. We're a small firm. I don't have all the money in the world. I'm not venture backed. I'm Pete backed, right, or bootstrapped. And we're going to hire 3 positions next quarter, right? Well, okay. How did I come to that conclusion? Okay. Well, first is I had to have enough revenue to cover the majority of those of the salaries, right? So I've always been taught, if you can cover 50% of the salary, you should hire them. The money will find its way. The second thing is, if you're just a starting up, and I would write down all the stuff that you don't like doing, right? That you hate doing. Most likely, those are the same personality traits as together, right? All those things that you don't like doing, and then you can create a job description based on those roles. And if it's not overwhelming, you can hire somebody or maybe 2 people. With us today, we have enough revenue. We're ready to have a growth spurt for VPM. And so I've decided I'm going to hire a marketing strategist. Now, why is that? Because that's a hole in our game. Between what we have as all the company is today, we don't have somebody focusing 40 hours a week on marketing and somebody who's really good at it. Like, I'm the marketing guy. I'm not good at it, and I don't focus on it 40 hours a week. Matter of fact, I don't really love it, so I don't really focus on it at all. So we focus on marketing maybe 10 hours a week when I need somebody who's way more advanced. But that's a high dollar value, and I couldn't afford that till just now. The second,
Pause on that real fast. So you said 50%. So like, hey, let's say that person's $100,000 per year, say for example, right? So you're saying you have at least $50,000 of reserves. Is that like a per year
I go
basis?
by
Is that what you're
monthly,
thinking?
right? So let's
Okay.
say it's 100,000 a year, it's 8,000 a month or whatever.
Mhm.
If you have 4 grand a month coming in, you can probably afford that person.
Got it. Okay, keep going.
Yep. So with us, we decided, okay, we need to we know if we focus on marketing, what's going to happen to the company? We're going to get more leads and we're going to grow.
Mhm.
Right? Marketing is the front of the train, so to speak, where accounting is the caboose. So hire if you can hire growth related positions first, they will pay for themselves much quicker than an accountant would, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Right? The second position that we're going to hire is an account manager position. Right? So what we have found is we have churn on with VPM. People hire people, fire people, and don't rehire again. right? And so we know an account manager, if they focus 100% on that and that reduces churn, what does that do? That increases our revenue and our profitability in our company. And then the third one is a developer. At the end of the day, we are a tech firm and we need the product to behave certain ways. And people are asking for certain things. And if I can get the product to get people to move in the way we want them to, i.e., post a job, fill a job, and pay people and hire a second person, a third person. If I can make that super simple and the product can help along with that, that will increase our revenue as well. And for us as a tech firm, every dollar we make is worth about 10. In a service-based industry, every dollar you make is worth about a dollar 25, dollar 50.
Okay, wow. Okay, by the way, Siglet's Peak Neubig, by the way, and you could find him and his company, vpmsolutions.com, vpmsolutions.com. Hire a virtual executive assistant, help your real estate business or property management company grow. Social media admin, listing, customer service, bookkeeping, inside sales, maintenance. He's hired over 37,000. There's 37,000 virtual assistants that are ready to take your business to the next level. You want to check it out by going to vpmsolutions.com. Okay, so you have these three. Let's talk about the marketing one, right? I think leads have been tough this year for a lot of the business owners we've been talking with, right? Things have slowed down, deals are stalled, deals are pregnant, meaning like, oh, wait for the financing to go, or wait for this to go, wait for the election, or wait. So a lot of just angst and a little bit of that. So that means you want to pour into marketing because you got to get more leads to get more deals closed at this point. Yep. So when you're looking for a marketing strategist like that, break that down a little bit more. Like, how are you finding that person? Is it a virtual assistant? Is it affordable? Like what are you looking for there? And if someone were to say, yeah, Pete, I need a marketing strategist, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So can it be virtual? I think it can be. However, I personally am going to actually look for somebody in the US on this particular hire. Right. So a marketing strategist to us is somebody who knows HubSpot real well. That's our CRM system. So they have to be able to program in HubSpot. And then but more importantly, they have to be able to work with the whole team. And we have to get a homogeneous or homogenous, English language is tough for me. My first language, homogenous message out across all platforms. And what I find is we do a lot of stuff, but we're not like, okay, our marketing message is not congruent across all stuff. Now, hiring a marketing assistant or a social media person or somebody in that frame of mind, that is 100% virtual. So like my marketing assistant's virtual. Everybody does all my podcasts on the back end and does all the social media posts. Like the ones who can do, those are virtual. The ones who kind of are strategy thinkers, I'm still putting those in the US, although I'm seeing more and more virtual assistants as supervisors, managers, CFOs. Like it's happening. People are using high level positions for remote team members.
Okay, that's a great summary. That's a great summary. Okay, so got it. So what else haven't I asked you? They should ask you now as far as top questions that someone would be thinking about. Training. Go ahead.
Training. Mm-hmm. So the biggest challenge that the first challenge is not having a job description, right? But the next challenge is people are scared to hire a remote team because they feel like they're going to quote unquote steal hours. How do I know they're working for me? How do I know they're not working for 3 other companies? And it's a legitimate question. And it's also one that even in the US, we have to worry about now, right? I got a buddy I know, he lives in Delaware. He works for 3 companies in the US, right? So this is a pandemic that's happening all across the world. So the first thing I'll say is you have to train, like whoever you hire, whether it's US based or virtual assistant, you got to spend time training them. So there's delegation, delegation, abdication, and micromanagement, right? And so what happens is I find business owners trying to micromanage their remote team members. Guys are making $5, $6, $8 an hour, and they're micromanaging, meaning I want you to put down everything you do every 15 minutes. I need to know when you go into the restroom, like. Meanwhile, the guy who's in their office making $150,000 a year comes in late, leaves early, takes a 2-hour lunch, does water cooler talk, and they don't even worry about that. So the first thing is like, don't worry about quote unquote stealing hours. train your team correctly, spend a lot of time with them. There's a book that I always recommend called The 1 Minute Manager, and I'm a big fan. It's about 100 pages. You can read it, and I'll paraphrase, but spend a lot of time with them as they ask questions, redirect and ask them how they would answer the question. And over time, 90 days, 120 days, all the escalations go down and you're about 10% escalation. So it's a 90-10. They can handle 90% of the job within 90 days. So then after you train them, then you still have to manage the team, right? So this is where that abdication comes in. You have guys, especially salespeople, love this. They say, "Oh, I hired this person, and I'm not going to micromanage them." Yeah, you're not managing them either. You're not doing any of it. And so what they do is they vomit on them. Here is all the stuff that you need to do. They tell them one time. They don't give them any instructions, any direction, and they say, "All right, cool, got it, great." And then, a month later, like nothing's being done. Now the other way is I'm going to micromanage you. So, Brett, I hired you. I want you to be on video all day long. I'm going to record everything. I want you to write down everything that you do every 15 minutes. And no one wants to be micromanaged. Like, I don't have time to micromanage somebody. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to read that report, right? I'm going to record every screenshot. I'm going to look at the report. So, look, there's a happy medium. It's the delegation. And so the first thing you do is you spend 2 to 3 weeks every day training them. You put them on video. They get videoed. You're training them. They have to watch the video the next day and create the manual. That's the way you train somebody, right? So they get to watch you, they get to listen, and then they get to write. So they're using all three of the ways we learn in that video alone. The next day, you don't say, "Okay, do you have any questions? Let's move on." You go back over everything. As a matter of fact, you ask them to teach you what they've learned the day before, and then you add on. I'm again process guy, so I like starting at the beginning of a process and then working through the whole process. It takes a little bit longer, but the retention is much quicker. So it might take me 3 weeks to train, but instead of 60% of escalations, I might get 40% escalations, in the first couple of weeks.
Okay,
But
cool.
it's
So
like,
let's see what I got this year. This is awesome. So it's
yep,
training is the next big thing here, right?
yep,
And every day you're training. It sounds like maybe an hour a day. I don't know. We'll go through that here in a minute. But then they watch the video the next day, right? As well as they create the manual, right? They write
that's
the
right.
SOP, right? And then before you move on to the next thing, you say, "Now teach me what you have learned." Is that a fair summary about like that, whatever that process or that thing you're trying to delegate? Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely. And one of the mistakes I made early on was I created the process manual and no one will read it. So this forces them to build, even if you have one, even if you have a company one, let them build their own
Okay. Let
because
them
they
build their
learn
own.
quicker. Yep.
How much time are you spending on average training per day? How much do you think is a good, an hour, hour and a half or less?
Hour.
Okay.
What
So
happens is I used to do 2 hours, and after about an hour to an hour and a half, people's brains just get shut down.
yeah.
So you get more with less hour, and then later on that day they watch the video. So do an hour in the morning, they watch the video, and then they build their manual. In their first 2 weeks, that's all they're doing.
Got it. So yeah, they're just, yeah, 1 hour of training. And then later sometime today, I want you to go back and rewatch the video. And then I want you to create the manual. That's their entire day for the first 2 weeks.
Yep. And if you have
Okay.
video training on top of that, like some of us have, like we have a software and the software comes with its own training, like then they should be watching that training as well. At VPM, we have over 30 modules of training, and every training for a remote team member comes with an exam. So you can actually leverage our platform. They can take those tests, take the exam, and they get a certification. And so you can make sure that they're taking the test. And I think you have to watch 93% of the training before you can actually take the test. So
Okay.
we don't do it where they can just, skip forward.
Awesome. Pete,
Yeah.
you've dropped so much value. Let's shift into a bit of what you guys do, right? Like how you guys help people to do this, because obviously you're an expert in it and you have a passion for it. And so talk about VPM solutions. You touched a little bit on it just a second ago, but how do you guys work with companies? They're saying, "Look, okay, Pete, that's it. I know I need it. Okay. Yes, yes, and yes, everything you're saying." What's the best way that you work with people?
Yeah, so we have three ways that you can use us. We have a do-it-yourself, so you can go to the platform, you can create a company profile. It's 3 steps, and then you can browse those 37,000 plus profiles, and you can invite people to a job. You can post a job. All that's free. And then you hire somebody. They enter time through our platform, and when you pay them through our platform, they pay us. The VA pays us 10%. So the platform is free for US and Canadian companies. It's all free. Now, the second model that we have is the do it with you model. We call it our white glove model, and you create a profile, you schedule a meeting with our white glove specialist. There's no fee for this, and they will walk with you through the journey. They'll review your job posting. They'll review. They'll tell you how to message people, what you should message them, what you should ask for, and they basically tell you the hiring process that we use at VPM that I used at my two previous companies, and they kind of guide you through that. But it's a do it with you. You're still doing a lot of the work. And then the final one we have with the do it for you model. We call that the Gold Glove service. You create a profile, you schedule a meeting with our Gold Glove. This is a pay for, it's $1,500. With that, we do all the work for you and you make your final decision. We send you all the resume cards. We take disc. We do English test. We do internet speed test. We do a self interview, and you can watch all of that. And then you pick and choose on who you want, and that it's $1,500, and we have a lifetime guarantee on anybody we place. So, for example, a year down the road, that person's not working out, or they left your company, as long as that same job, we will rehire for free on that job, even if it's a year, 2, 3 years later.
Wow. Okay. This is pretty awesome. So, in 3 ways: free, do it yourself. Jump on there. If you hire them, you get 10% of what you pay, what you paid them through your platform. Boom. Second way, do it with you. Sounds like it's similar, but they'll kind of guide you through it as well. But no cost. So you don't get paid as you hire, right? I think is what you said there. Maybe clarify that second one. Third one, $1,500, and then it's like you're doing it done for you. You're going to do all of the stuff to get the person there. Is that a fair summary so far? Or did I miss it?
Yep. So on all three of them, we get paid the same way. They get hired on the platform, and then we get 10%.
Got it.
The white glove, it's free,
Yep.
and a gold glove, we'll help you. Like we'll do everything, and then when you want to hire, we just hire them with you on the platform. Very
Got it.
simple.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Awesome. And by the way, people want to take action right now, you go to vpmsolutions.com, vpmsolutions.com, create your free profile, schedule a demo. How a virtual assistant can help you run your real estate business. Property management company is the specialty. Do people reach out to you, Pete, for other businesses and such, or are you kind of just really focused just on the virtual the property management real estate?
Yeah, so our target is property management, multifamily management, HOA management, with a little focus on single family because that's near and dear to my heart. That's where I spent most of my career. But we have doctors' offices on there. We have
Yeah.
contractors on there. We have people that support the industry on there. It's any back office job, we can help you.
Okay. And so we talked about the marketing strategist. That's probably more US based. So which ones do you feel like are the biggest game changing ones, right? For people, did you find for real estate? Is there ones that kind of really stick out? Like these two, like right now, if they would just hire your service and get it going in 30, 60, 90 days, man, these two would make the biggest difference. Anything kind of come to mind?
Yeah, so one of the ones that helped my business when I was just a VPM, and it was like like an aha moment for me was a salesperson. Like my salesperson's in Colombia. And so we call him an SDR. And that guy, he's the one who makes all the cold calls. He makes all the cold emails. He reaches out to everybody. And we have gotten a lot of business from hiring him. And, I won't disclose too much, but he makes $5 an hour, plus he gets a quarterly bonus. So it's very, very economically friendly for us
Yeah.
as a company.
And the English and the connection. And I mean, the working hours? Is it Colombia maybe more on the U.S. hours, right? So how is that?
Yeah, so Central America and Mexico, they're all on our same time zone.
Mhm.
Philippines, I do have multiple people on the Philippines that work for me, and they're obviously about 12-hour difference, so it's a little bit more difficult. But my account manager, my customer service people are in the Philippines. My account manager is going to be in the Philippines, and when I was at Empire, my property management firm, everybody was in Mexico because I didn't know about it, and I just knew Mexico. But man, all property management, all property management was done by my virtual team members, and escalations were done by my property managers. My property managers they became my inside salespeople. When I hired all these virtual team members, the churn rate, because if you're in property management, you have a lot of churn. The churn rate went down, and my revenue went up, and my profitability went up as well. And we were able to grow the business through referrals because we were doing such a good job, and my property managers now had time to talk to clients, not just call them every time an eviction was happening or a toilet was going down. They were actually able to call them just to say, what's up? Hey, are you looking to buy another property? Did you know that we have real estate services? So now all of a sudden my real estate went up too, because we were able to buy and sell homes for our clients.
I love it. So you're creating margin for each individual on your team, like the executive leaders or the bigger leaders or the bigger sales, right? And then you're creating margin with the support staff to do the things that, by the way, great money for them. They're really happy and they're filling their role. And you're basically being able to help people do the 80-20 rule, right? Which 20% of the effort is going to produce 80% of the results, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's amazing. That's really neat. Anything else I haven't asked so far, Pete, that you could share with the listeners before we move to the lightning round?
No, I think we're good.
Awesome. This is so good. By the way, again, vpmsolutions.com, vpmsolutions.com. All right, let's dive for the light round. So knowing what you know now, Pete, knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
I would have taken a job for the learning, not for the money.
Awesome. I like that. Second question. Number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Traction by Gino Wickman.
Excellent. Question number three. What are you most curious about right now?
I'm curious if I can double my business next year. That's the biggest question that I'm thinking about all the time. My poor wife, she must hate me right now because that's all I'm talking about.
Cool. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Lead by example. I never ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do or haven't done.
Awesome. Top way you're using ChatGPT or your team is?
Customer service.
What do you mean by that?
Anytime we get some kind of question or a negative connotation, we ask GPT how should we answer it. So that's kind of number one thing we do. So any customer service thing we come in, we throw into GPT. Second is marketing.
Awesome. Next question. I think it's our last one. Actually, we ran through this really fast.
I'm a lightning round guy. You tell me lightning round, I spit it out, buddy.
Yeah, doing great, Pete. I think it's this. So, our big focus and our big thesis and or passion for the Build to Billions podcast is helping people on the journey from practicing a mindset more of stewardship over ownership, right? So, what does that mean to you to practice stewardship over ownership?
Well, when I owned the PM business, I always felt that we are taking care of somebody's home. Like that's our job, right? It's somebody's home, and then it's also somebody's biggest asset. And then the third thing is I had 35 people working for me. And so those three things really meant a lot to me. And when I sold the business and I started VPM, now if you think about it, I'm helping people literally change their lives in second and third world countries. I have over 1,000 people that are now working with US based businesses that make more money than they ever made, and they're pulling themselves out of poverty. And that's really exciting. On the other hand, I'm helping business owners literally for the first time in decades making money because they found great people at low cost wages, but high quality people at low cost wages. So for me, if I can help business owners be more profitable, run a more effective business, which helps their clients, and I can help people bootstrap themselves and get out of poverty and employ people myself, I feel that's kind of the stewardship. The business is the thing that gives you stewardship.
Amazing. Pete Neubig, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you for using your gifts and talents of process, procedures, and empowering other people to go out and do and work together on a team, and especially virtually, right? Love everything you're doing. I want to encourage all of our listeners again to go to vpmsolutions.com, vpmsolutions.com to connect with Pete and his team to get started today on how a virtual assistant can help you scale and build your business. That being said, I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. Again, we are on this journey with you to guide a successful entrepreneur and investor from millions to billions. And we believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale, compound your wealth and life so you can give more all of it away to help MVPs. I'm Brett Swartz. I appreciate everyone watching or listening out there. Please rate, review, subscribe as well. Share this with someone that could change their business. It could help them grow their business, get some margin in their life for their team and themselves. Appreciate everyone listening and watching, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.